and welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Bajo. There will be more warnings along the way, but take this as a broad spectrum, all-encompassing, wide-ranging, generic warning that tonight's episode will feature sex, violence, horror, and even a trip to the 80s.
It's too awful, Bajo. But yes, we will be reviewing the once banned and now R-rated Mortal Kombat 9.
There's even a scary clown. I think that needs its own warning. There's the raunchiness of sexy scientist on cyber warrior action in Far Cry Blood Dragon.
Now, it's time to save the world.
And if that's not enough, it's scares and creepiness aplenty with Slender The Arrival.
Plus there's new tiny power, which should always come with a warning anyway. But first, can you guess the game for this week? What could it be? News time, Hex.
R-rated news?
No, just regular news.
Good game.
The long-running space MMO EVE Online is being turned into a TV series. The game's developer CCP announced it's partnered with Icelandic filmmaker Baltasar Kormákur to create the show. Kormákur was the director of the 2012 film Contraband and is currently directing Two Guns, starring Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg. The series will take inspiration from stories that players have shared through a website to commemorate the game's first decade. No network, distributor, or premiere date was announced, however, it will apparently be distributed worldwide. Meanwhile, Ninja Theory's Heavenly Sword is being turned into a straight-to-video CG animated film.
Never once forgetting what I was offering for such power.
The film is being developed by the team at Blockade Studios, who are also working on the upcoming Ratchet & Clank film. No further details, such as cast or release date, have been confirmed at this point. Nintendo has announced that it will not be holding its traditional press conference at this year's E3 Expo. Instead, they'll focus on a number of smaller events specifically for distributors or Western press in order to provide hands-on playtime. Major announcements and new games will be revealed through their Nintendo Direct presentations. Publishers 2K Games and Valve Corporation have also revealed that they will not be attending this year's show.
Good game.
Hex, I liked Far Cry 3. I didn't love it, and I think we can all agree that it would have been better with dinosaurs. The standalone expansion Blood Dragon doesn't have dinosaurs, but it does have dragons. Blood dragons that shoot freaking lasers from their eyeballs. Roll the montage.
Well, hang on, Bajo. I think we could do a little bit more to set the mood here. Ready? Yeah? What do you think about that? Now roll the montage.
Blood Dragon is a standalone expansion which is a love letter to cheesy 80s action movies. It started off as a joke within the studio and then developed further along enough that they decided to release it as a game.
It is the year 2007. It is the future, and you are Rex Power Cult, a man turned into some kind of half Terminator thanks to a nuclear apocalypse.
Wakey, mother.
It's a classic tale. I'm sorry, Hex, can we please turn the lighting back? All this neon has given me a perm, and you do not want to see that.
All right. Better?
Much.
Good. Now, Rex is appropriately voiced by Michael Biehn, who many will remember as Kyle Reese from The Terminator and Hicks from Aliens, two of the greatest 80s action films.
What happened? They said you went off the reservation. It's gotta be a mistake.
No.
And without spoiling too much, you're on a revenge mission to stop a rogue general who kills your best mate, SubZero, and has diabolical plans to bring down the US government and fire some missiles.
Initiating decapitation strike protocols.
Or something like that.
Actually, Hex, I think you just spoiled everything. But that's because it is a ridiculously thin storyline. It's only there to cram in as many cliches and references as possible, and that's not a bad thing.
I don't know, I've got to say the whole look how 80s we are humour started to wear a little bit thin quite quickly for me.
If it is a joke, I'm afraid it's a bad one.
I mean, I get 80s nostalgia, but this just felt a little bit self-indulgent to me, and I wasn't laughing at too many of the jokes. It was more of a sympathy snort here and there.
What's the sympathy snort?
It was like this, it's like... Yeah, you got it.
Well, I wish more games were bold enough to be this over the top, and I quite like that they went all nuts out on it. Things like this mission ripped straight out of Aliens.
Guess I'm coming out of my shell.
The constant, terrible but awesome one-liners.
I call shotgun.
The amazing reload animations. And that great Dino Riders moment. So cool.
What the hell is this?
I am the Battle Armor Dragon Assault Strike System.
And that music is so spot on 80s. I think it's the best soundtrack we've heard all year. And in fact, it's done by an Aussie duo called Power Glove, so Power Glove's off to them.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty great, but it doesn't change the fact that I wasn't having any fun with the actual game. I mean, it's basically just a miniature version of Far Cry 3. You have a brand new open world island to explore, full of outposts that need liberating and animals that need hunting. Which doesn't sound so bad on paper, but in reality it took just about everything from Far Cry 3 and made it slightly worse or completely terrible.
Blah, 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 kill, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, first of all, how do they make this so ugly? I get that it's 80s, but even the 80s wasn't that bad, was it?
The 80s was pretty ugly. I agree with you though. They've got this awful pink haze over the whole game, and like the hang glider sections where you were surveying the land, it was all quite picturesque in Far Cry 3, but here it just feels like they're pouring pink paint into my eyes.
Yeah, and while we're talking about it, why even use those crappy hang gliders? I mean, if this is really meant to be balls out 80s action sci-fi, then why not strap a few rockets and lasers to it or something? I mean, come on, this is simple stuff, people.
Yes, it would have been nice if they'd been a bit more imaginative with the vehicles. We did play this on PS3, so no doubt it would look a bit better on PC.
Far Cry 3 wasn't very RPG heavy, but it has been simplified even more here. There's no skill trees, you still level up, but it's a linear path with each new level unlocking a preset upgrade. The crafting system is completely gone too though, so that does make hunting a little bit pointless.
Yeah, it does have a small role though. With each outpost you liberate, you unlock 2 missions. One involves rescuing a scientist from a small group of enemies, and another that sends you out to hunt a particular animal, such as the leader of a cybernetic cassowary pack bent on taking over the world. And completing these offers new weapons and upgrades, so it's worth spending the time to do them. And of course, the world is littered with collectibles like VHS tapes and TV sets.
You know, I'm starting to actually like this.
One of the biggest additions is obviously the blood dragons themselves. These wander around the island like any other animal, but are almost impossible to kill for most of the game since they're really tough and can almost one-hit kill you with their laser attack. Luckily, they're also totally stupid, so you can sneak right past them most of the time.
That's right. Nothing to see here.
You also have cyber hearts, which you can throw, and the dragons will be attracted to them. So if you are trying to take over a base, just chuck a heart in there and watch the fireworks. Go, my pretty, attack!
Here, boy. Holy shit.
All up, we managed to blast through the main mission and get to the credits in about 3 hours. But you can probably double that time if you take down all the outposts and do all the side quests as well, which you're free to do after you finish the main story too.
On a side note, we have 2 R18 games in this episode, Mortal Kombat later of course, and this, and it's not because of the violence, it's because of a high-impact sex scene.
Yes, now we're going to censor it a little bit, but get ready to see Australia's first R18 sex scene in a game.
I want to be blinded with your cyber love. Yes. Ouch. Ouch. Ouch! Yes. Yeah. No, 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 no. I never thought a cyber commando could be so gentle.
Well, final thoughts, Hex.
Well, overall, I wasn't that impressed. I mean, the gameplay was a step backwards in my opinion. It looks ugly and the humor just didn't quite hit the mark, so I'm giving it 6.
I think you're being a little harsh on it. It is just a downloadable, standalone game, so you don't actually need to have Far Cry 3 to play it. And I think you get quite a bit for what you pay, so I'm going to give it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Next up, Tiny Power. You want to make an MMORPG, RTS, FPS platformer, which is also a driving game and a sandbox builder.
People really seem to like games with zombies in them. I want to change all the aliens to zombie aliens.
I need to sleep! Please, let me sleep!
And tell Aaron to redo the Nazi ninja breakdancing cycles. They need to be perfect.
Aaron's hallucinating.
Aaron, put your pants on and reanimate these.
Norm, they're good enough!
Look, If you've got an issue with aiming for perfection...
No, I've got an issue with you being so afraid of rejection that you keep picking and picking and picking to avoid ever releasing anything. And rather than just manning up and telling Megan you have feelings for her, you'd rather embark on some kind of misguided attempt to convince her to like you by making the perfect game, which then means I'm not allowed to sleep.
I need to sleep! I'm not afraid of rejection and don't have feelings for Megan. And no one's sleeping until this game is perfect!
I'm going home, Norm. I need to sleep.
No problem, Megan. Thank you.
Ah, perfect!
Good game.
With the unexpected success of the short but terrifying indie horror download Slender, it's not surprising to see a sequel follow it up, Slender The Arrival. Do you dare return to the forest? Oh my god!
It's amazing how a forum meme has gathered so much momentum that it now has 2 games, and Slender Man is as scary as ever. The moment I booted up this game, I had the chills, even though nothing had actually happened yet.
The core game is still the same, which is good because Slender owes a lot of its scares to its simplicity. But with help from Blue Isle Studios, the sequel is visually a bit better and a little more fleshed out as well. I'm not sure that the same positive note could be applied to the simplicity of the mechanics though. I would have liked to have seen them develop that a little bit more.
Yeah, especially as you have more to interact with this time around, but we'll get to that. You play as Lauren and begin the game by paying a visit to your friend Kate. But when you arrive at Kate's house, she's nowhere to be found. Instead, you find the walls covered in manic scribbles and drawings. And then suddenly, a blood-curdling scream.
Ooh, it's classic horror, isn't it? The sun sets all too quickly and you're totally in the dark. And likewise, this game is best played at home with the lights off and a good set of headphones on, as there's some really great sound design here. You'll hear what you think are your own footsteps, only you stop moving, but the sound of the footsteps continue.
Yeah, that got me every time. I'd be looking left to right. Where is he? When you get to that first house, some of the mechanics are a little awkward though. Collecting letters and clues and objects, like our trusty flashlight for example, is all fine, but opening doors requires you to click on the door and then use your mouse to flick it open or closed. And this is really fiddly and annoying.
Yeah, and when you're quite nervous and anxious because you can hear something behind you, faffing about with a door certainly doesn't help, although maybe they did that on purpose. Thankfully, you don't encounter too many doors.
No, 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 no. What does he want?
Soon, you find yourself hightailing it through the forest once more, as well as a few other locations, as Slendy's tentacles reach farther and wider than ever before.
Oh my god, I'm gonna get
As you traverse abandoned houses, autumn hillsides, and dark, terrifying mines, you'll come across more letters and fragments to piece together the story.
And Slender Man isn't the only terrifying beastie you'll have to deal with in the dark. Oh my god. Oh my god. No! Rest assured, you will run. You will scream. No! And it will take you a few goes to get through some of these stages, which are pretty tough, and the stress just makes it tougher. Not to mention there's a difficulty setting you can adjust if you want to punish yourself. You can choose between normal and... Yeah, I tried it.
The generator level in the mines was the worst for me. It's like a labyrinth, and those creepy little things are always one step behind you. And just when you think Slendy has left you alone, bam, he appears. And it's always when I'm trying to find the last page or the last generator. But just like all good horror, the intrigue of this mystery will pull you through.
All in all, it's certainly longer than the first game, but it can still be completed in a couple of hours. But it is reasonably priced, and I think it'll provide a satisfying follow-up to fans of that original cult hit. I had to take de-stress breaks between each of the stages, Barjo. I was terrified. I'm giving it 7.
I love it when a phenomenon like this takes hold, and just goes nuts. I want to see more from Slender Man. I don't want to see more of Slender Man, but I want to see more from Slender. I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10.
Oh gosh.
Good game.
He's a ninja who packs an extremely icy punch, but what's the real story behind everyone's favorite frosty fighter? SubZero, this is your extra life. Originally known as Bai Han, you took on the name SubZero as a ninja of the Lin Kuei clan, a mysterious group of assassins who ordered you to take part in the original Mortal Kombat tournament. Your skills as a cryomancer gave you the unique power to freeze enemies, allowing you to torment opponents with constant icy interruptions. As the story goes, you were defeated by a similar-looking and equally popular ninja in yellow, Scorpion, who mistakenly blamed you for the death of his family.
Pay for the murder of my family!
Before then being resurrected as the dark ninja Noob Sabot.
Fear me!
After your failure, the Lin Kuei then sent a second assassin to complete your unfinished task in the next tournament. Your younger brother Kuai Liang, who adopted your blue garbs, codename, and your chilling combat style.
Cyrex!
But after discovering a plot by the Lin Kuei to transform their members into warrior cyborgs, he abandoned the clan and set out to learn the truth about your family's lineage, unmasking himself in the process and discovering that you were both actually kidnapped by the Lin Kuei after they murdered your parents. In spite of this tainted past, the younger SubZero eventually returned to wearing the clan's outfit, but he swore allegiance to the Thunder God Raiden.
I'll do it, Thunder God. Only because I don't have a choice.
And has since worked to clear your name as Scorpion's nemesis, reconcile with your ghostly re-embodied Noob, and even adopted a role as a solitary protector based on an example set by the Dark Knight himself. SubZero, you may have been given the cold shoulder in your first tournament, but your name and your prodigy will live on. And to us, you'll always be known as the chilled out combatant who's as cold as ice and will never lose his cool.
SubZero wins. Fatality.
Good game.
Thanks, Goose. The 2011 Mortal Kombat was the first game to get banned in Australia that we actually wanted to play, because even though the gore was high, so were the review scores.
2 years on, and with the new R18 rating, Australians can finally compete with the Complete Edition,
The tournament begins.
which is the original game plus all the downloadable content. And we can see why it was originally restricted. This is one of the goriest and most brutal games we've ever reviewed. You have been warned, things will get messy. Fight!
Is it really necessary?
A challenge!
The Mortal Kombat games were my all-time favorite games as a kid, Hex. And the moment I picked up the controller, that excruciating 2-year wait to finally play this game on 1080p on my TV, it was worth it. Well, it was kind of worth it because I feel like everyone has moved on, but MK9 is still a great game.
Yeah, it's a top-notch fighter, and coming off the back of Injustice from the same developer only a few weeks ago, it's a pretty good time to be an Australian fighter fan. It has a campaign too, which is a retelling of MK1 to MK3. Earthrealm is under threat from being absorbed by Outworld. The only way to stop Shao Kahn and his minions from taking over is a tournament of Earth's top fighters.
If we lose this time, Shao Kahn will conquer all. Dun dun dun!
The MK characters have always had a little bit of story with them, but it's usually been told through text boxes, so it's nice to have those characters a bit more fleshed out now.
Yeah, and there are some interesting ideas in this campaign too, if a little cheesy at times, most of the time. Johnny Cage's stuff is especially cheesy, but I still enjoyed it.
Hey, beautiful. Johnny Cage.
Good for you.
And I liked the whole Cyrax and Sector's transformation from human to machine.
You have disobeyed the directive.
Sector? You're a cyborg.
And for some reason, Kano is now an Aussie.
Pretty boy ain't gonna save you this time. Throw that on your Barbie, shrimp.
Sonya's boobs are ridiculous though. Apparently this is Special Forces standard military issue clothing.
Your actual military?
Special Forces.
Get out. Raiden called in the cavalry.
Raiden? No idea who you're talking about.
Yeah, Jade and Katana aren't much better.
Enough of this.
There are a few booby hangovers from old MK that just haven't changed a bit.
Shield your eyes.
What?
And you have to agree that the campaign is pretty bad, Bajo. Most of the stories aren't strong. I mean, there's quite a few fights for no reason.
No. You will not be the one to challenge Shang Tsung.
You want some too? Fine by me.
And a lot of the voice acting is below par.
The coming days, each of you will fight. You're good. Show me more. You have disgraced no one. I hope we meet again. Under different circumstances.
Scorpion's all about revenge and telling everyone he's out for revenge all the time.
I will honor the memory of my fallen SubZero deserves death. You will suffer as they did. I will have his hand. I will have my revenge. I will have my revenge.
Also, there seem to be very few rules to this tournament. Basically, if Shang Tsung pops up behind you and says, "Oh, a challenger," the fight's on.
A challenge!
Fight!
Also, every now and again you're thrown up against 2 enemies, which is a pretty big difficulty spike.
I don't mind those so much because it's kind of like a boss fight where you really have to learn their moves to try and beat them. I think as far as fighting campaigns go, it's not actually that bad, although Shao Kahn can get stuffed. What a cheap boss! Kahn!
What? The tournament will begin!
Goro, however, is beautiful.
I will give you a warrior's death.
And sitting down to play this Hex, within minutes I was just hit with this wave of familiarity and nostalgia because instinctively I know how to play this game. Jump, high kick, sweep, uppercut, block, special move. And right down to the timing, such as when you're on the ground you can start doing a special move combo as your character is still getting up. I just felt right at home, Hex.
And there's new strategy too with the super bar. Just like in Injustice, it lets you spend some on a breaker or a more powerful special move.
Scorpion wins.
You'd want to be pretty desperate to use it on a breaker though, only if it's really going to save your match. It's better to save it up and use it on the now famous super move X-ray attacks, which are more powerful and painful. Oh, I winced every time, Bajo. It's fun managing that super gauge though. If you miss a hit, it can make or break a match, and often they come down to the last sliver of health, which means it certainly feels like a well-balanced fighter.
Yeah, each character seems to have the perfect mix of weaknesses and strengths. And what a roster, all about fan service. Cabal with his devastating dash, Liu Kang and his crazy kicks, Kung Lao's Bond villain hat moves, Shiva and her patented Borat swimsuit return.
Yeah, characters like Raiden, Scorpion and SubZero all haven't been messed with too much, which is great, especially SubZero, who is bare bones but powerful. In fact, everyone feels just like they used to in the older games, with just a few tweaks. The PS3 version also comes with Kratos, which, I have to be honest, I didn't really like him that much as a fighter.
Yeah, I have seen him used well, and you'd think he would be perfect for a fighting game like this, but I felt like they kind of watered him down a bit just to fit in with MK. I did like how one of his special moves has a quick time event within it though, I thought that was quite neat. And the locations, Hex. Just like the old days, but shinier. From the music to the backgrounds to the Mr. Toasty guy, they're all in there in beautiful HD. This game just feels part homage to those original 3 games, but also a brand new serious fighter in its own right.
There's also a lot of crazy modes like Test Your Luck and 4-player tag matches, which is really fun on the couch with friends. Let's talk about X-rays and the famous fatalities for a bit. So now's the time to take a breather if you're squeamish. Obviously, this isn't a game for everyone, and these 2 features will make many switch off, I think. The X-ray moves are brutal. Seeing bone and guts crushed is full on, but they have purpose in the fights. It is painful to watch your character get hurt so much, but you're also feeling that pain because you failed to block that special move, so it's a sort of punishment.
Strategically and conceptually, the X-rays work really well, I think. The fatalities are a whole other ballpark. You go into a Mortal Kombat game knowing it's going to have these fatalities. It is the thing that set this game apart from all of the others back in the day.
Yeah, and you know, not a lot can shock me in video games nowadays. I feel like I've seen it all, but when we saw the fatalities in this most recent MK, I think we were both just open-mouthed at the sheer, you know, blood and sinew
Bits
and
of
the
skin in
bones,
between the bones being
and just
stretched.
body parts being ripped off. In our 8:30 time slot, there's not a lot that we can show, but we do want to discuss this in detail. So we've prepared a diorama to demonstrate one of Baraka's more brutal finishes, who in this instance will be played by Wolverine.
Baraka, Sector. Round 1, fight.
So first, Baraka jabs his blade arm thing into his opponent like so, and then lifts him up like this.
And he spins him around like a helicopter.
Spins him around like a helicopter.
And then he lifts this other arm so that he chops all the individual pieces of his body off one by one, leaving just a bleeding torso, which he then throws on the ground. And there's lots of sort of blood around the place. It's quite violent.
Yeah. and that's how it goes.
Actually, guys, we can show it.
Oh, we can show it. You've been warned.
Finish him.
Tomato sauce and figurines aside, this game does pose some interesting conundrums with regards to these fatalities, because on the one hand I often found myself shocked and appalled at what I'm seeing, thinking this shouldn't be in a video game, and then on the other hand I found many of them quite humorous, and that made me feel guilty, but then I didn't want to look away.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, it's that Tarantino vibe of like the gore and the violence being so over the top that it fits into that kind of category. But it was the ones where there were bodies just being ripped and torn apart that I think it just took things a little bit too far. And for me, you know, seeing the losing character screaming in agony is just, ugh.
The fatalities I found most affecting were actually Melina's, because after she does the fatality, she kind of does this sexy dance in all of the blood. And that just was weird.
Probably the worst one for me was this Kung Lao fatality, which honestly, when I saw it coming, I had to look away. I mean, I don't need to see that. And does that make me super lame that I don't think seeing a person buzzsawed in half from the crotch upwards while they scream in agony is a video game necessity?
Yeah, that one is very full on, but at least it uses something that Kung Lao was known for, his spinning hat. There's a very fine line, I think, and I think this game makes a point of crossing it many times and pushing those boundaries, and that's not always a bad thing. Creative industry should push boundaries, but I think they needed to think more creatively about these fatalities, because I felt like half of them were just gore for the sake of it, and that fits into that kind of hostile film vibe, which I do not like, but the other half were more suited to the character, such as Freddy Krueger's fatality, which really suits him. He leaps up, he pulls them down into hell, it makes sense.
Yeah, some of the ones that I thought hit the right mark were ones like Shiva, for example. This one's still gory, but she beats you to death with your own arms and then uses them to clap at the end. I mean, it's less affecting and it plays to that ridiculousness and the humor. You know, we were so frustrated when this game got denied release in our country, but now that it's here, I'm especially glad that it got released under the correct rating, because there is some seriously sickening stuff in this game that I think even we weren't prepared for.
Yeah, and I think it's worth analysing and talking about whenever we get a game like this, because this is a new kind of level of violence that we've never seen before.
Yeah, especially at this graphical level as well.
And we've got a new generation starting too, and it's all going to be even more detailed. Yeah. But we should wrap this up. If I were to criticise anything else, I think it would be the presentation of the game in general. There's no way to skip cutscenes or chapter select in the campaign, which is unusual, and in general the menus are laggy due to online checks, even just to press start. And while we're at it, I've noticed this with Injustice as well, but both of these games have so much trouble connecting to other people online.
Fight!
Sometimes 6 or 7 dropouts in a row and then one good game and then followed by more dropouts. It's not good enough. I play these games to go online and fight people who are better than me to get better myself, and it doesn't make it easy for you. But all in all, 2 years on, this doesn't feel like a game that is 2 years old. It holds up well, and I'm glad Mortal Kombat has returned to that 2D strict fighting plane. So I'm giving it 8.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
8 out of 10 from me.
Scorpion wins. Fatality. Good game.
Did you guess the game for this week?
Why, yes, I did actually. It was Dark Sector from 2008. Originally banned here due to gory violence involving mutilations, it was adjusted and released later in the same year. Your instrument of destruction was a glaive, a tri-pronged boomerang-style weapon that returned to you after every strike. And it was pretty gory.
Next week, we head underground with Metro Last Light.
Humanity is too blind to see where salvation lies.
And we attempt the perfect heist in Monaco, What's Yours Is Mine.
Over on Spawn Point this weekend, we meet an Aussie pro gamer who shows us what it takes to turn playing into a profession.
We won ourselves $4,000 and a trip to LA, really, to represent Australia.
Don't forget you can watch our show as many times as you like on the interwebs, on iView, or on our smartphone apps. Till next week, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Bajo out. Hey.
It's a nice suit, isn't it?